I thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I would like to start by expressing my appreciation of the United Nations, the European Parliament, the Global Center for ICT in Parliament for the last 2 years when they have been deeply engaged in developing the e-Parliament. This is a new phase of development in our democratic processes. I would also like to take this opportunity to say that UNDESA, the Global Center, have also promoted the setting up of the African Parliamentary Knowledge Network, which was formally launched in June 2008 at a conference in Cairo, which was graciously hosted by the People's Assembly of Egypt. And I wish really to congratulate Dr. Sulu, Speaker of the People's Assembly of Egypt, for hosting the conference and for inviting me to attend this conference, because that's a move towards bringing the e-Parliament to the African continent. Honorable members, speakers, and our experts present here, I would just want to start by making one comment that I think the question now is not whether the use of ICT in our parliaments is important or not. We've crossed over that question. The question is how to implement it. For us in the Pan-African Parliament, this is the best answer which will enable the Pan-African Parliament to carry out the mandate given in the protocol that establishes this Parliament. The Parliament is now 5 years since its establishment. We have seen the problems of non-connectivity. We are using 6 languages in the Pan-African Parliament. Given the problems of movement on the African continent, this is the only way we can move across ideas from our parliament and to the people we represent on the African continent. Because with the ICTs, there are no mountains, there are no rivers. You can just move across once you are connected. And our objectives of the Pan-African Parliament is to promote the exchange of experiences and information of different aspects of our parliamentary work among national and regional parliaments. We also are supposed to harmonize some of the laws on the continent, and it has become very difficult to engage in this responsibility without a quick method of connecting within the African Parliament. With this system, we'll be able to build capacity to develop programs and joint activities across the continent. When there was a screen showing the low income, the high income, and mid income, definitely most of Africa falls into the low income. The question we have to address, if we have to engage in this utilization of the ICTs in the work of Parliament, is first the accessibility to technology. That's the biggest question on the African continent, because the technology is not easily accessible and affordable. So I think it's within this conference that we'll have to address how does Africa access the technology, and how does Africa afford the technology? And what is the budget involved? Maybe this is also an exercise where experts must help us. What are we talking about when we are talking about African parliaments at national level, regional level, and at the continental level, using ICT in all our parliamentary activities? What's the budget we are talking about? How are we going to reach resources that will enable us to get the technology and to train our people? For us, this is also a major concern which we should address, so that at the end of the day, we do not find ourselves lagging behind the way we are lagging behind with the Millennium Development Goals. We all agreed in developing the Millennium Goals, and adopted them, but because of some of the issues we never took into consideration, we are now seem to be lagging behind. I think for Africa, it's not so much of lack of goodwill, it's lack of the capacity to do it. So I do hope that in this conference we are also going to address that. Now, coming back to the question of use of ICTs in the parliamentary activities, another important thing is that if you see the development on the African continent, some of the problems we are experiencing, like the conflicts, is a result of non-connectivity, no dialogue. For example, if you take the Eastern Congo and the size of the Congo, I doubt whether the members of parliament of the DRC can express the wishes of the people of the Congo from the DRC, from all corners of that country. So sometimes the dialogue among the citizens is going to be a very crucial question to solving some of the problems which will go beyond just connectivity among parliamentarians and the people who voted for them. It would also mean connectivity among the people to be able to solve some of the problems which cause conflict on the African continent. I would like to also point out the question of democracy. I read my history when I was in primary school about the Roman Empire and all the development of democracy by these great thinkers, where the issues were more on the voices of the people in a community. I think it was called a state, but I think it's what we understand to be a community. Otherwise, they would not engage everybody coming to the conference where they debated the issues. This was the same in Africa, that when we were still living in our small communities, the village headman would drum and everybody would come to the meeting. But as we moved on to be states, this became impossible. We can only go back to a certain extent of that type of democracy, which is very ideal, by using the ICT. Because that's when everybody can press in and get the same information at the same time. And people can bring back the response on the same way, same conduit. So if we really want to build the democracy, which is not hijacked by parliamentarians, I'm using this word deliberately because I'm a parliamentarian myself. Sometimes we go to parliaments without even consulting our people. And we declare that we are representing the people. With the use of the ICT, we, representatives of the people, will have to be really consulting our people, because they will have the power to either object to the ideas you are claiming to represent them. So that hijacking of a few people called parliamentarians, hijacking the voices of the majority, I think the only solution is the ICT. I see it even in the African Parliament, that if we are not connected to the people, and we are not yet properly connected, and we cannot be heard. Some people ask, what is the Pan-African Parliament? It's lack of connectivity. So if people don't hear us on the continent, what right have we to say we are representing their voices? So I think this is also a very crucial point in democracy, which we are trying to develop in Africa in particular, but also in at the global level. Now, the other thing which really we need to address in this type of democracy using the ICT is the question of bridging the gap between those who have the technology and those who do not have the technology. If we don't bridge that gap, I think we'll have a democracy which is inclined only on one side. So in this world where everything is happening at the same time and has an effect on the other parts of the world, it's very important, therefore, to level the ground when it comes to ICT. And in fact, the problem, the difference which we are seeing between those, the high income and low income in the use of the ICT, is that which continues to create the gap between the developed and the developing. And therefore, you cannot have a true democracy, particularly when you come at the international level, which we are closely linked to, and which has an effect in our own undertakings, if we do not fill in the gaps which we are seeing in the development of the use of the ICT. I would like to say that at this point, that if the parliaments are really representatives through which the will of the people finds expression, in which the diversity is manifested, and in which the differences between them are debated and negotiated, it's clear that the politics of e-parliaments have a significant impact on our democracies, as they greatly enhance the opportunity of citizens to dialogue with their representative bodies. In the Pan-African Parliament, we consider ourselves as a center of excellence, finally. And since the South African government has embarked on constructing this headquarters, the permanent headquarters of the Parliament, this is the right time to look into the possibility of facilitating the Pan-African Parliament to be a center for the e-parliaments, that there must be an engine, and it could not be any other body than the Pan-African Parliament, so that that connection to the national parliaments would therefore stimulate even a faster growth of the use of the ICT in Parliament. I would like to say, therefore, that the question of leadership is very crucial. It has been mentioned several times in all the speakers. Leadership. What type of leadership do you have for these parliaments? The president, the speakers, the secretary generals or clerks of parliaments. We all have to have that same focus on these issues which we are talking about in order to facilitate the movement. But there must also be a political will, because sometimes even in the lower income countries, if there is a will, we can move ahead. So the political will should be solicited by all of us in our national parliaments to ensure that if we had designated resources to other activities, we should also give some We should show a goodwill to give resources to the development of the technologies that will enable the concept of e-parliament to take place. Democracy, therefore, can only happen if we are all connected. And that connection is not only between European Parliament, Pan-African parliaments, it's a connection between people, a connection between their representatives, and also a connection globally, so that we can deal with the global issues in the same wavelength, and that is the issue maybe which will contribute greatly to the peace and development we are aspiring to at the global level. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Mongella, thank you very much.